Welcome to the UEFA Champions League Coast to Coast podcast brought to you by thelines.com. Coming to you from the west coast of the U.S., Josh Lander, joined as always by my mate, Dan Tracy, across the pond. How are you today, Dan?
Yeah, very well, thank you. The Champions League train is hitting full speed, so let's get to another station and let's start chatting some more betting.
And that station is the February 22nd days of games here. We're going to be going through both the matches here in the round of 16, starting with this Manchester City and Leipzig match. But I do want to remind everyone we're bringing you every single match here in the UEFA Champions League till the end of this year's tournament. So make sure that you are liked and subscribed to that page and can continue to follow along with us. Also follow along with Dan on thelines.com. He's putting up all his picks there easily for you guys to read along with what he's choosing throughout this tournament on thelines.com. There's also a great odds finder tool on there I should remind you guys about. Make sure you're getting the best odds that are available to you across these US sports books, giving you Champions League's bets. Dan, let's go ahead and jump right into this first match. Like we said, Manchester City, who sits comfortably atop the Premier League standings as well. I don't know about comfortably. Arsenal's on their heels, obviously, if you believe in them. Let's not get into that right now. That's a different podcast. But they are sitting atop the group stage right now as well. They're in a good situation, I think, taking on Leipzig here. They're minus 130 favorites to win this one here. And then you've got Leipzig at plus 350. A draw almost as unlikely, according to the bookies here, as a Leipzig win at plus 285. So I guess my first question is really, where's the value in how you're going to choose and how you're going to find value on Manchester City winning this game, basically?
Okay then, so when we look at these two teams, they played each other in last season's Champions League group stage and they shared 12 goals between two matches. It's a small sample, but it's a strong enough sample for me to work with. So when you look at the amount of goals that were scored, when you look at the likes of Christian Nkunku for RB Leipzig and of course Erling Haaland and all these merry men at Manchester City, there's goals, but more importantly perhaps there is also going to be defensive deficiencies. You look at City and they've said goodbye to João Cancelo for at least a few months, and last night, that being the Man City clash at Arsenal, Pep Guardiola played Bernardo Silva at left back for about 45 minutes. It didn't work, and that kind of tinkering makes you kind of think, hang on, if he does something similar in Germany, it could be any score. So with that being also said, RB Leipzig's defence is far from perfect, and I just feel that when you're looking for value, the starting line for value here is going to be over 3.5 total goals, and that's at plus 165. So you could add that to a Manchester City win as well. You might have to drop it down to plus 240 and then go for the win, and that might be somewhere in the region of plus 240 if you want a little bit more. But if we're going for purely goals, and this could be as much as a 4-0 rout for Man City, it might be 3-1. We'll get to that in a moment. But if we're looking for pure goals, over 2.5 goals won't cut it. We need at least over 3.5, and that's what we're going for, a plus 165.
Yeah, over 3.5, and the Man City win as well is quite a nice bit of money. I mean, with the logic you're using here, how would you feel about Man City and over 2.5? It's plus 150. It's not quite what you're saying, and even you get more with just getting the over 3.5 goals. But if that tickles your fancy, is there any way that you would add their sort of let's call it a parlay here in terms of adding their win with all these goals?
Yeah, you could, just to fatten it out, because I'm looking at this from a Man City are going to win perspective. I'm not looking at over 3.5 goals and saying this is a 2-2 draw.
Right.
I just don't see that happening. So
right.
For me, it's Man City win as the base level and then goals on top. So feel free to add Man City into the mix. I've just kind of simplified it a little bit and just said I'm confident there's going to be plenty of goals, but if you want to add a bit more or just be more secure in your betting, perhaps go for the Man City win as well.
Yeah, no, and I think that's what we're going to run into here is a wealth of different ways to bet on what we feel confident in happening. Obviously, we always want to draw a little bit of caution as well in terms of there's no such thing as a locked bet. So if you go crazy and just start betting all over the place for there be a ton of goals in Manchester City to win, there's ways for you to lose. So don't just say that we're not sitting here telling you we know exactly what's going to happen, but we are playing off the game theory that there will be goals, that Manchester City will give up a goal most likely as well, which is another sort of type of way that you can find some really good odds on them giving up a goal, I imagine, and different ways to bet upon that, but still to win, right, for Man City. So what would you say is your sort of another way that you might bet on that sort of aspect of things?
Yeah, so the crux of both of these bets fundamentally are that both teams need to score. as I say, Man City could win 4-0, but I feel that's a bit of a leap of faith. So my second bet, I don't know if our listeners or our viewers remember the World Cup episodes where I offered a score range, and it kind of protects a bit more sort of in terms of different eventualities. We're not sort of pinning our hopes on one correct score. Why not pick 3? And especially with the odds on offer, because I'm going for a Man City 2-1, 3-1 or 4-1 win, odds of plus 350. I think that's a great shout because you've got 3 realistic scores that could quite easily take place in Germany, and that's a really great price at the same time. Of course, you need RB Leipzig to get a goal, but I think I've made a good case for Man City's defence allowing that, and I just feel that Man City are going to have too much. So as long as RB Leipzig get on the score sheet and Man City win, it has to be a 5-1 win for our bet to be bust, and I don't see that happening either. So the spread looks absolutely fine.
Love it. These are my favorites. You really, opened my eyes a lot more to the score ranges that you can get, rather than just have to pick one exact score. Although that was something that we loved in that last Benfica game, like we said, 2-0. I love when an exact score hits so much. But even one of these ranges, I love that as well. So like we said, just tread lightly, but feel good that there's some really good ways to win this one, with Man City. And when Man City comes home, I don't know, maybe we'll have a different sort of take, that maybe they'll be ready to rest on their laurels and we're not exactly excited about, 3, 4, 5 goals being scored in this game quite the same way. But either way, for now, there's some really good ways to make money on that one. And I feel good about what we're talking about here with Man City. It's one of those things, like I compare it to, a bet where the Patriots are in the playoffs playing like a really bad team in the first round. You can feel really good about these sort of early rounds mismatches where some big teams are coming in. So this might be another example of that situation in that second game today, which is still a very fun game, I would say. Maybe a little bit better matchup, but Inter Milan is still heavily favored as they are at home versus the Portugal squad there, FC Porto. Minus 125 for Inter to win this one. A draw is plus 270, and then Porto is plus 350, exact same odds there as Leipzig, like we just mentioned, to win this game. Milan to advance is still minus 150, plus 115 for Porto. So I don't know much about the value in those bets right now, but where do you start when you look at this clash here?
Well, I've looked at it from a Porto point of view. We seem to be getting a lot of joy with away wins in the Champions League thus far. I just feel that this tie's quite finely balanced. When you look at each of the 8 pairings which have been put out in the draw a couple of months ago, this one kind of looks the most even. You could also make a case for AC Milan Tottenham. That also looks in the balance. But this one, you're kind of sort of thinking, have Inter got enough to win at home for the price they're at? And I don't think they have, which is why I'm going to take the double chance for Porto. That's either winning in Italy or simply having a first leg draw or tie at plus 100. It's not the greatest price, but I just feel this game's quite difficult to call. But the more I think about it, actually, there's always another way to look at this in terms of value. I think this could be quite a low scoring game, which is why I've gone for under 2 goals also at plus 250, which is, it's either gives you the 0-0 draw, the 1-0 win either way. So you've got 3 score potential possibilities there at quite a good price. So as long as it's a low scoring game, we could be quids in.
I like it. I mean, the under 2 there is an interesting bet, right? Because if you take the under 2.5, you obviously lose a lot of that juice that you're talking about. But I think you gain a lot by adding just that half goal, or taking away that half goal, and really bumping those up from like minus 105 minus 125 for under just for 2.5. But you can, like you said, tack off that half there, and then you get a bunch more juice and you keep it low scoring. That is sort of where I was looking as well as my favorite bet, just to agree with you on this one. I think there's a little bit of extra juice being added the other way. I think because of the fact that Porto has been scoring a bit, and they have been scoring whether they're playing in the Portuguese league there or in the Champions League, as they did have a bunch of goals in that first stage there, averaging about 3 a game in that time frame there. But I still think that there's something to be said for the way that they do play when they're away. 8 of their last 11 games have actually gone under 3 goals in that time frame. So Inter actually have had 4 of their games went under 3 as well in the group stage there. So at home as well in the Serie A league. So I think there is something to be said for getting a bit more value on the under goals, which people might not be seeking quite as much. And I would agree with that one in the way that that's going to go. But okay, another way to bet this game, Dan. What's another sort of avenue for finding some value here in this match?
Okay, I've looked at this game from a perspective where it could have a bit of ebb and flow. So again, I'm kind of looking at it from I don't know which way it's going to really pan out. Part of that's the double chance, but also I just like the look of Porto taking the lead at any time. So this could be the first goal. It could be the fact they go 1-0 down and then get it back to 2-1, and then Inter could get a late draw, make it 2-2. So obviously that goes against my under 2 goals theory, but it offers a lot more flexibility in how the game could pan out. So all I'm asking for is Porto to be leading at any time of the game, and that's plus 135. So as I say, they could get a 90th minute winner, tick. They could score in the first minute and go ahead, tick. There's loads of different ways this bet could come over the line, and I just feel that, again, because Inter, I don't have enough confidence in them to sort of say, at minus odds, we're taking that. This is the Champions League. I don't think we should be taking any bet at minus odds in terms of the three-way market. I just feel it's too much risk attached to it. So although the double chance isn't the boldest one, it's not offering the biggest price, there is logic there. I just feel if we're using that logic, I'm always trying to connect the two bets, which brings its own risk, because obviously you might win both and you might lose both, but hopefully we win both. So if Porto are going to at least come away with a draw, the logic should dictate they should at least be in front at one point, and that's why we're going for the second pick as well.
Yep. And to be honest, that would, if you do want to take them to lead at any time, along with Dan's preferred, bet tie or Porto to win is even money there. That other bet goes along greatly with it. It does not go along with my under theory, because if Porto is going to be leading at any time, but I want there to be under 2.5, 2 goals or something to that effect, then I wouldn't want that. I would just want Porto to be winning at that point. Because if I'm saying there's going to be a 1-0 win or a 1-1 draw, then I might as, it's not worth it in that sense. If you're going to be doing Porto to lead any time, a tie or a Porto draw, then I think you want to go at least 2 goals at that point, because if Porto is leading, there is still the possibility that Inter comes and goes, no, and they win 2-1 at that point, and make sure that they come away with a win. I don't want to have to put too much stake on, the Inter having to score another goal or Porto having to hold them from another goal. I think your two bets, while they're around even money for both of them, I think they're a really safe play and a good way to kind of bet on Porto to be able to hang around in this game, but not have to worry about them being able to win it outright necessarily. So I would also add, though, with all the logic we're using here, in that sense, if I'm a betting man and I'm going, I think there's going to be a close game, 1-1 at some point in the second half, then I'm also feeling good about a draw at plus 270 at that point, taking that before the game starts with all this logic we're using, just to find a bet that sort of assumes that, it's plus 270, that I think it's going to be 1-1 in the second half, and all I need is Porto to not give up another goal in the last 20 to 30 minutes of the match. I'm betting plus 270 on that at that point, and that I feel pretty good about as well. So I think we can be in agreement in sort of the flow of this one and everything we've spoken about here. So any parting words, Dan, before we wrap this one up?
No, I think we're good. Just bring on the Champions League. It's back and we love it. So it's all good on that front, and the train is going to keep whizzing on to Istanbul in June's final. So bring it on.
Absolutely. We are having a good time. Make sure to like and subscribe. We're like he said, all the way to Istanbul is where we're taking this level of the UEFA Champions League podcast here on thelines.com. So until we see you next, happy betting.